Good afternoon from San Francisco and good evening in Denmark, Gordon Smith says. Ted Ryman's down in Cape Town. Christopher Gillingham, normally in Leamington in the UK. Hello to you, Christopher. Rob Sternstein, Margaret Miller were on first with 6 others. James Frederick Bland down in Texas. Rob Sternstein is in Boston. Baton Rouge on the East Coast is with us. We're live again from Studio B. I hope the feed today is less croutonic than it was the other day. It was perfect leaving Studio B, but some problem from Facebook. Emmett's in Weymouth. James in Smoky Sausalito. Welcome to all of you. Let's get this one on the road. Welcome to TFE Live, number 447. Next week we'll do 48 and 49, and then the following Tuesday will be our 450th show. If anybody has any special ideas on what you'd like to see, not that it's a big deal. When we get to 500, that's probably a bigger deal. My co-hostess is here. Julia, I was going to joke that we got a call from the White House just before we went live asking us to come help with the messaging out of the White House after the croutonicism, but since I'm sure nobody here wants to hear about the mess in Afghanistan, we get away from, we come to our sport, the sport we all love, to get away from that madness. I'm your host, Tom Ehman. We got a terrific show today. Although, you know, Julia, we could maybe trade you in. I mean, it's elder abuse, this guy who's president.
That is true.
And I wouldn't want him sitting in your chair as my co-host. He's so croutonic. Look at these guys smiling. We got a couple of cool guys on from Calgary and Toronto, respectively. We'll introduce you to them. They are the co-chairs. The 2021 Canada's Cup, that's the theme of our show today. I'm your host, Tom Ehman, as I think I mentioned. Get that off there, and let's get on with it here. For the starting line, our A block, I just want to say, first of all, thanks to, remember this gentleman? Another one of Julia's favorite Brits.
Oh, yes.
Jamie and Allan, she loves the Brits, so you guys as Commonwealth guys, I think she'll love you too. But you know, that's, oops, I got Jamie's title up there. But that, of course, was our guest on Tuesday, the World Match Racing Tour's James Pleasance, the executive director of that tour. He's got it revitalized, and he, like our guests today, have managed to break through COVID, at least in some, to keep the sport going, at least in some respects. So too bad about the Gold Cup in Bermuda. That's not happening. Hopefully, sounds like Congressional Cup is going to happen. But regardless, thanks, James Pleasance, for coming on the show Tuesday. It was a terrific segment. Today, we're going to talk about the Canada's Cup, one of the oldest trophies in our sport, second probably only to the America's Cup, possibly the Sewanaka Cup. We're not quite sure, but from the late 1800s, about the same time as that other famous Canadian trophy. You know what that is, Julia?
Stanley Cup.
Lord Stanley's Cup. And there's a lot of jokes about that, whether it's a trophy or whether it was his, as the cricketers would say, the box, your groin guard. Hockey players famous for putting a groin guard on long before they ever put a helmet on. And I can say that as a hockey player. Well, we know what's important.
I was going to say, you know what's important.
You got to protect your family jewels. Julia, your witness?
Yes. Don't fail to like, follow, and share.
I like that. That's much nicer, much stronger than what you said before. Don't fail. That's what President Biden should have said. If any of you croutons even look cross-eyed at an American or an ally or an Afghani who's trying to get out of the country, there will be consequences. You say the same thing.
Don't fail.
Much nicer, much stronger. And of course, we leave comments open. We get hundreds of comments, even in replay. We're one of the few shows, live shows, that leave comments open in replay because our FOSI, and I haven't said this in a while, so I will, no personal attacks, no name calling, no croutonicism, no harsh language, no coarse language. That's why we leave comments open, because it's self-enforcing. And if you all don't enforce it, Julia goes on and flicks the comment and will block you forever. So thank you to all of you who live by that creed, that prime directive, if we were Star Trek, Julia, or not. Yeah. Support us on Patreon. Many of you do. Give us a few bucks a month. Join via patreon.com/join/sailing illustrated. We appreciate that support that keeps us on the air, keeps my landlady happy.
Sort of.
Sort of. This hurricane is coming up the coast, and for the first time in a long time, since the early 90s, it looks like it's going to go into the Connecticut coast or over Long Island, maybe even into Newport, Rhode Island. I had an interview this morning with our severe weather expert and longtime friend, Mark Michelson. But just to set it up, Tropical Storm Henry, currently spinning its way west-northwest about 375 miles south-southeast of Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, is likely to become the first hurricane to make landfall in southern New England in 30 years. Why it matters: factors ranging from soggy soils from previous rainstorms to astronomical high tides. Henri's slow forward motion will combine to create a uniquely dangerous scenario for New England beginning Sunday and lasting through at least Monday. Mark Michelson doesn't think it's going to be near as big a deal as Sandy. He downplays a bit, but of course he cautions everybody in the meantime. Here is Mark via phone a couple hours ago. Yes, he's coming. There he is. I just had to click through my slides. Hurricane Henry.
Well, for now, it's just a tropical storm, and while the surface circulation is not aligned with the upper circulation, that'll probably come back more into vertical alignment later today, and that's when we should see some strengthening, taking it above the 55 knot current strength and taking it into hurricane category. But I certainly don't see this accelerating into a major hurricane. And while the diameter is fairly large on Henri, I don't see an opportunity for it spending enough time over warm enough water for it to become a serious threat to New England. We'll still get possibly 3 to 6 feet of surge from maybe the Cape Cod area down into eastern Long Island, but I don't think this is going to be anywhere near the cataclysmic event that Sandy was.
So where do you think it's going inshore?
I think just to the west of Newport, Rhode Island. The latest National Hurricane Center update has nudged the forecast envelope to the left at the end of the track, much the way that Sandy bent to the left at the very end before it made landfall. But again, I don't think New York City is under as much threat as it was under Sandy. Sandy's surge was massive compared to what Henri should be.
And how much breeze, if it goes in Connecticut or in Rhode Island, what category, how much wind?
Category 1, there's one outlying model that says Category 2, but we're really talking about 75 miles an hour sustained, gusts into the 90s. But again, you'll have to see what happens with the size of the circulation. That'll be the real determining factor for the storm surge, which is likely to do far more damage than the wind.
So we don't want to minimize this, but it doesn't sound like that big a deal, at least historically. But when do you think it'll go ashore?
Sometime during midday Sunday.
Okay. Well, keep us posted, Mark. Thanks very much for the update. Nice to talk. And to all our friends in Newport and Long Island and Connecticut, big sailing area, of course, in this part of the world, in this country. We hope you stay safe and stay tuned.
Indeed. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Mark. Ciao. Bye. Yeah, that was Mark Michelson a couple hours ago, and he's moved from SoCal up to Eagle, Idaho. He's closer to you up there, Allan, Megarry, and Calgary than he probably is to us, God's country up there. And we thank him very much for coming on. By the way, that was recorded earlier, as I said, and Mark has then checked in just before we went to air. This was 1:30 Mountain Time, which was 12:30 our time. My friend and fellow hurricane forecaster Levi Cohen at the, I think he's at NOAA, National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration, just did a 1:30 p.m. update on Henri, and it is in concurrence with our discussion earlier this morning with regard to intensity and track. So thanks again, Mark Michelson, for that report, and stay safe, all of you in Newport and the Northeast. Julia.
Yeah. Bill Wingrove just says it's a windstorm around here.
Yeah, well, it is in the Great Lakes, too, where the guys are Royal Canadian guys. We don't exactly have 60 to 90 knot winds, which is what Mark's saying they might have gusts up to, but sustained 60s, still a lot of wind if it gets that strong, but we shall see. one never knows, and stay safe wherever you are, particularly in the Northeast this weekend and into early next week. I want to start this next segment with a Bravo Zulu. And to all of you that are making our beloved sport happen in the midst of this pandemic, and by the way, we'll have Mr. Andrew McIrvin on next Tuesday to update us on COVID and masks and booster shots. And you going to get a booster shot?
Not until I'm asked to have one.
So if they're offered next month at
my first shots are with UCSF, and if they say I should have one, I'm going to have it.
University of California, San Francisco,
right.
One of the most esteemed hospital chains in the world.
Yes.
And if they say you got to have one, you're going to have it.
Yes.
What if McIrvin says don't have one?
I may stay with UCSF.
Well, anyway, the point is that what our guests today have accomplished by getting the Canada's Cup back on track, and likewise what we've been reporting Balboa Yacht Club down in SoCal did with the Gov Cup, and then with the Youth World Match Racing Championships, and all the rest of you in the world that are making our sport happen. Bravo Zulu to all of you. We're very pleased to have these gentlemen with us. They are live via Zoom and respectively in Calgary and Toronto. That's Jamie Keating on the right, who's the past Commodore once removed. Is that right, Jamie? Once removed?
Got it. I'm just out basket last spring.
We call that immediate past Commodore in Canada?
Or just no longer relevant.
Do you stay on the board when you leave?
Summarily kicked off.
You're gone. You're summarily kicked.
We pass it on to the next live body.
Well, also he's co-chair with Allan Megarry, who is out in Calgary. He's normally a Torontonian, but Allan, welcome to you as well.
Thank you, Tom. What Jamie doesn't tell you is that he was a 2-term Commodore of RCYC, 5 years ago, and then he did such a great job they brought him back. Oh, so
it's not that he stayed longer; he came back for more. Glutton for punishment.
Right. That's correct.
Wow. Okay, guys. Well, welcome to both of you. We're delighted to have you on. You've been on the show before, at least once. Was it once or twice in the past?
I believe we were on might have been 2.5 years ago.
And that's when you made the big decision to go to IC-37s, right?
Right. That's correct. That's when we made the decision on the IC-37s back probably late 2017, before Boat 1 was even sailing. We had a conversation with New York Yacht Club, and they were quite happy to have us use the 37s in our Canada's Cup series. And we made that decision back late 2017.
Well, I Bravo Zulu'd you at the time. I think a lot of people did. It's a fantastic development for the sport, because it's also means you're running the Canada's Cup in a one design, not in a meter boat like you did last time in the 8-meter boats, which is of course it's a design rule, and the boats are different. Or in the past when you've run it in what other kinds of boats?
Well, it's interesting because the deed of gift calls for design rule boats, and not one design, but boats that are built to a rule. An example being the 8-meter rule or the IOR rule back in the 70s and 80s. So that was part of the deed of gift, and it was back in 2001 that the FAR 40s were introduced, and that strict one design sailing started. So that, it's only recently that the one designs have been incorporated into the event.
Why don't we go back to 1896 and one of you talk us through the history of what is, as we said at the top of the show, one of the oldest trophies in our sport and most prestigious trophies, the Canada's Cup.
Sure, I'll take a stab at this, and Jamie, jump in if I miss anything. But it is 125 years old, and the first race was in Toledo, Ohio, actually, against a yacht club, Lincoln Park Yacht Club, which is in the Chicago area, and Royal Canadian, and they picked an independent location like Toledo. And our understanding is there were 3 races there, and Canada, helmed by Emilius Jarvis, raced a number of races on the way to Toledo, and then finally, when it was in Toledo, won 3 straight, and the Cup became known as the Canada's Cup. His yacht, the Emilius Jarvis yacht, was named Canada.
And how many matches since then?
So there's been a total of 24 match races. The U.S. has won 13, and Canada has won 11. So it's been typically the races have been 3 to 5 years. Although there was an article in Scuttlebutt indicating that there has been some gaps in between the races, anywhere some of the biggest ones 20 to 25 years. So it's only recently, since about 1970, that the trophy started to gain activity again. And since 1970 or 1969, there's been 13 matches.
Well, you wrote that article that was in Scuttle. It's a good article, right?
Oh, thank you.
Scuttlebutt and a few other places. But the gaps were in the war years primarily, weren't they?
That's right. 1934, there was a gap, and there was a gap in 1907. So and I also indicated in the article that the trophy actually lived 51 years at the Rochester Yacht Club up until 1954.
51 years?
51 years it lived at Rochester Yacht Club.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it. I knew they'd been active in it and particularly in the meter boat era, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, because the Rochester Yacht Club on Lake Ontario is one of the most active clubs in that neck of the woods, at least on our side of the border, and a terrific club at that. The late great Helen Ingerson and Joe Ingerson and some of them and many others that at that club. Well, the Canada's Cup is match racing, but it's unique in that it is between not just the U.S. and Canada, but it's between Great Lakes clubs. Is that correct?
That's correct. Again, the deed of gift states that it is for friendly competition between Great Lakes yacht clubs of Canada and the United States.
So Julia, the Beach Street Yacht Club, we can't challenge for it.
Oh, how sad.
I know. And I've had this discussion with these guys. Maybe Commodore wants to jump in too. Jamie, jump in at any time, please. But I think that, have you given consideration anytime recently or is the deed of gift prescriptive and stops you from going outside of the Great Lakes?
Well, it's interesting. It's been a discussion point, as a matter of fact, recently, because we were thinking of what the format of this event should be. And we started getting a little bit imaginative. We started to think about whether, in addition to being one design, that we would also consider fully amateur. We would consider multi-gender, and the IC37 really started to fit the bill. And when we had the IC37 in the crosshairs, we started thinking, well, then there are other clubs on the coasts that are probably going to be involved in this boat. And so the imaginations were starting to roam. But we've decided to stay closer to home for now. We'll never say never, but at this point, we seem to be getting a fair amount of interest from various corners of the lakes, notwithstanding COVID. We're ever hopeful we can kind of build some real momentum here at home, and then we can think more abroad.
Well, I think I commend you too, and then Allan, come back to you. I commend you also for making the decision to stick in IC37s, which is for the first time that the Cup is in one design boats, but also in Toronto. And as we said in the tech check earlier today, I gave a talk up there. Paul Henderson, your a longtime club member and a regular on this show, former president of World Sailing when it was IWRU and ISAF, had me up to give an America's Cup type talk. And I said one of the things I thought you should do was keep the Cup in Toronto, your immediate headquarters, center of the at least of Canada. I guess Montreal might take issue with that, or even Vancouver, but your immediate headquarters, you've got a great sailing area, venue, and a terrific, fabulous club with the station, the in-town station as well, out on the island, Toronto Island. So keep it here, because if you look at all the major events in our sport, Julia, we've had this conversation any number of times, in other sports, Wimbledon tennis, the Masters golf tournament, and then you look at our sport, the Congressional Cup in Long Beach, the Royal Bermuda, the Gold Cup in Bermuda year in and year out, the Fastnet race, Sydney Hobart. They don't move those races around the world, and they tend to get a lot more gravity. So I commend you for it.
Well, we'll have to give you credit for the idea, because that's exactly what we ended up doing, and we're pretty excited for at least the next 2 Canada's Cups. We'd like to see some continuity. We'd like the opportunity for both competitors, the sponsors, and frankly, spectators to kind of see what this event could really be like. And we want it to be Canada's Cup plus.
Well, any pushback from other clubs? Were there any clubs that did not challenge this time, for example, when they realized they weren't going to get to host the next one?
I'll let Allan handle that if you want.
Yes. There were a couple clubs that felt that us hosting and maintaining 2 events or 3 events, they wanted the opportunity, if they had won, to take the cup home and put on a proper defense in their own clubs. It was a tough decision for us, we did discuss it quite a bit, but at the end we felt that in the past there's been a little bit of uncertainty around when the event would go, what the boats would be, and we wanted to take that uncertainty away. And by mandating the IC37s for 3 events, as well as Royal Canadian Yacht Club for 2, there was certainty around what was going to occur in the near future. So we wanted to provide that certainty and give potential owners and teams some confidence that this wasn't just a one and away. This is something they could count on for a number of years.
Well, I'm not sure it was my idea. I may have been promoting something that Henderson and I and a lot of your other club members had been talking about, but I commend you for it.
I would just add, late 2016, early 2017, I spent a fair amount of time in conversations with Don Green. Tom, I'm sure
the late great,
with Mr. Green and Evergreen and Sharon's father. And I was very fortunate to race the Canada's Cup with him on Evergreen and Lowell North and Tim Stern back in 1978. And he's always had a great affinity for the Canada's Cup and what was happening. And he and I spoke quite a bit about the event and what my idea of what it looked like. And he was really supportive of where we went. And that really gave me a lot of confidence in where we were going. But I would add that one of his comments just prior to him passing away was, don't be afraid to take the Canada's Cup somewhere new. And one of his thoughts, and it's something we have talked about, is opening it up to Canada and the United States, not just the Great Lakes. We would be breaching the deed of gift. But, it opens up a new conversation that might be entertaining down the road. But we'll see what happens after this next 3 or 4 events.
Well, step by step, and I think what you've done so far is without throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I'm a big believer in incrementalism, as I'm sure you two gentlemen are. But I really commend you for it, as I'm sure a lot of others do. And I can see the day, and I hope, we'll talk about it, no doubt, but I can see the day when you have a defense trials, and the event should stay in Toronto. Don't get me wrong. I think that is terrific from a sponsorship and a media standpoint and everything else. Yeah. And you try to keep it the same time of the year so people gets on their calendars. And then you start getting people from clubs coming to watch it because Toronto is such a wonderful town. We spent a lot of time up there sailing as kids, but playing hockey too, because it was a 5-hour drive from Ann Arbor and kind of halfway between. We'd go to Chicago one year and then we go to Toronto the next year to play hockey. We'd always get our asses handed to us, frankly, and go out and play the Canadian kids. And one of the places we played was in Scarborough. And we'd play Wexford and Scarborough. And the reason I mentioned Scarborough, Julie, is because Pindar's on here. Andrew Pindar, who's one of our great Fozy and has been on the show, and he lives in one of the many Scarboroughs in the world, Scarborough in the UK, and he says, Scarborough, Ontario, the Cup always gravitates to Scarborough. But I can see the day, gentlemen, when you have a defense trials in Toronto and you got Royal Vancouver, for those of you who are not here in North America, Royal Vancouver, Royal Victoria, Tell me who else? Royal St. Lawrence and Montreal, where my wife is from, and any Royal Nova Scotia. We have a Fozy on here. Maura Stevens is on, isn't she, Julia? I think I just saw her on.
Yes, earlier.
Maura Stevens, she's on, and she's up in the Maritimes. And you have a massive defense trials. At the same time, the challengers come to Toronto, and and it could be clubs from anywhere in the U.S., including, Julia, the Beach Street Yacht Club. We could put a IC-37 team together, charter a boat, get it there. But seriously, maybe not the Beach Street Yacht Club, but I can see St. Francis, San Diego, Long Beach, Chicago, Seattle, New York, of course, because they got that nice fleet of IC-37s now, Annapolis, Southern Yacht Club, who knows who else? The Davis Island Yacht Club, where Bill Wingrove is down in Tampa, having a defense trials and a challenger trials, and then the winners go for it. I think it would be fantastic.
You'll be glad to know there isn't unanimity on in the comments.
I'm sure of that, and that we always go back to read the comments. Julia's instructive. Anything on that before we leave that, gentlemen?
Just quickly, we have taken the first step towards that, Tom. But what we typically in the past, if the Royal Canadian Yacht Club had won, the Royal Canadian Yacht Club would become the automatic defender. And if an American team won, the Yacht Club would become the automatic defender as well. What we did is,
but the venue would stay in Toronto.
Not necessarily. That was the past. Now, what we did is we have opened it up to clubs from all over the lake, whether they would be the defender or the challenger. So you didn't have to join the Royal Canadian Yacht Club to be the defender. You could join the defender trials and represent your own club, and it wasn't like that in the past. So this is the first step towards exactly what you're talking about.
Well, in fact, John Lamberts Van Buren, who's saying and he's repeating, he's saying our international 8-meter Hollandia defended and won the 2016 Canada's Cup with an RCYC crew, of course, can't have cloggies, meaning the Dutch. Race for Canada's Cup would be fun for sure if we could. Well, I think you're on to something, guys. Again, bravo, Zulu. And let's talk about your other big step forward, I think, the progression to the IC-37. It will be raced in IC-37s, the Melgus New York Yacht Club combo class, really conceived by New York, and Melgus now building and supporting the class. And they're one design. So it's a big step forward, isn't it?
It is a step forward. Like I say, back in 2000 and from 2001 to 2011, the races were in FAR 40. So we had 10 years of experience in one design. The 8-meter event in 2016, it went back to the 8-meter rule, and it was, I would say that Hollandia was a quicker boat. And it made for some sailing that, perhaps wasn't the most exciting. And I think going back to these 37s, I did a test drive about 3 years ago or 2 years ago on a hull 001, and it was really exciting. They're so nimble, so responsive. They're a bit of a handful, which makes crew work tough. I think this is going to bring a new element to the match racing that we've seen in the past in the Canada's Cup.
Julia is shaking her head. Yes. Are you getting comments supportive of that?
No, but we've had them before, and I'm just agreeing with it.
Yeah, as you know, we've got hundreds of people we get several hundred comments per show, and they're pretty bright, whirly crowd on here. So it's worth to go back and have a look, as Julia always reminds us. Speaking of the OD, one design, the IC-37. Your challenger this time is from the Youngstown Yacht Club, just across the lake from you. This is not Youngstown, Ohio, as I've mistakenly called it. It's Youngstown, New York. And your challenger is Bob Hesse. We would say auf Deutsch, Bob Hesse, I think he pronounces his name. Yeah. Sailing Zing, a boat he owns and has been sailing in Newport, campaigning in Newport, Rhode Island in the New York Yacht Club circuit. And he's coming across the lake. Is he already in Toronto, or when does he come? The regatta is only in 2 weeks' time?
No, he's actually scheduled to arrive on Monday, the 30th of August, and we have he's gonna bring the boat across Monday morning early. We're doing some measurements as far as, you know, hull, just some 137 checklist measurements, sail check, just to make sure the boat is the way it's supposed to be. And that's on the Monday, the 30th. So he'll arrive just prior to that.
Well, let's talk some more about that club, because it is a cool club. Here's a nice painting of their clubhouse, which is at the mouth of the Niagara River. The Niagara River connects and goes across the fall, connects Lake Erie to Lake Ontario. For those of you who are geographically challenged, of course, we like to throw a map in there. You can see Lake Erie on the bottom, lower left corner of that slide. And then the Niagara River, which goes over the falls, and it's flowing north. It's one of the few north flowing rivers in the world, but it's also one of the shortest. By the way, do you know what the longest north flowing river in the world is? Julia?
No.
Allan.
Part of the Amazon?
No, the longest north flowing river, the head of the river, is to the south of the mouth. It's the Nile.
Yes.
You got to know these things. I can hear the Commodore saying, he's whispering in the background. I know you see Pedro Foiling Sailor on here. Peter Stevens calls us the Sailing Illustrated University. But Youngstown Yacht Club is a nice club at the mouth of the river as it empties into Lake Ontario to the north and then flows out the St. Lawrence Seaway, the river and the Seaway, out to the North Atlantic. Nice club that it is at the mouth of the Niagara, but they're in New York. This is not the Youngstown Yacht Club in Youngstown, Ohio. Now, your defender is a pretty famous guy. You want to tell us about him before I roll the tape?
Well, Terrence. He gets upset when I call him Terrence, and I think I'm the only person that calls him Terrence. So Terry McLaughlin, probably Canada's most successful sailor. I've raced with him. My first regatta with Terry was 1983 America's Cup on Canada 1 in Newport. We've done thousands of miles together, won many championships that include the Canada's Cup and the Invitational Cup. He has an Olympic medal from '84. Extremely talented. He's the best I think the country's turned out in a long time. So. No, I'm a big fan of Terry.
I am too. And of course, do you remember in '83 that, I mean, your team was kind of a day late and a dollar short and still had a pretty good go, a surprisingly good go. Yes. And my wife, as a Canadian, we were kind of helping to host the team in Newport, or she was more than I. I was involved in New York Yacht Club. But do you remember how all the teams threw a party? You know, the British Ball, which was one of the most amazing parties any of us had ever been to. Peter de Sabry's ball, and he had the Highlander piper, the pipers in. He had fireworks. He had massive amounts of champagne. You know what the Canadians did? It was way more fun. It was the most fun party. You want to tell them about your party? Do you remember it?
Was it the ball hockey pickup game that went
exactly?
On?
So the Canadians threw a pancake breakfast at their team house. I think it was. I can't remember. And then on the street, they had a street hockey tournament between, and I'll tell you what, it was, because I refereed it. It was rough as hell.
Wow. Because
the team started out, okay, this is for fun, but America's Cup teams, they got very competitive.
Yeah, I'm too small for that. And it was a little too rough for me. But I understand everybody thoroughly enjoyed it. It was one of the highlights of the summer.
Well, we had to stop it before we got to a final because it got so rough. People were beating each other up with their hockey sticks, and we're on tennis shoes with a ball on a cobblestone street in Newport. Let's roll this tape on Terry McLaughlin, who is certainly one of your finest sailors in the history of Canada. Have a look. He's been training last weekend at a big two-boat testing session. Brought up an American match racing expert. Who did he bring up? Chris
Poole.
Chris Poole. Let's have a listen. Yeah. I won't run the whole tape because it runs to 7 minutes, but let's have a look and a listen.
So I heard that you had quite the 3-day training event this past weekend. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, we were fortunate to get a top U.S. ranked match racer, Chris Poole, in town to sail against us. And it was good. We'd sort of been sailing against ourselves all summer and tuning and match racing, and this was our first time to sort of get everybody on our boat who was in town and sail against he had a good crew. We provided him with a good crew, but he's very current match racer. Did a regatta last weekend in Chicago. So it was great. We had 3 days. We were lucky with the wind. We had wind all, some light, some medium, a good breeze over the 3 days, and we got a lot of practice starts, drills, not so much long races, but just drills and situational stuff. We'd try something, and if one of us screwed up, or we'd do it again, and so it was a really good opportunity.
What was the biggest thing that you took away from it, or what that you learned?
As far as I'm concerned, I'm still coming up the learning curve for the 10th time in match racing, because I haven't done it in a while. So it's just as I say, all the best match racers in the world, they've all made tons of mistakes. It's just that they sail so much that they maybe they make the same mistake 2 or 3 times, but after that you learn. And so for me it's recognizing situations, and instead of, it's nice to get to the point at some point where you know what's going to happen next, or you can't do that, you can't put in one more jibe, or you can't sail over top of them. So I made mistakes, we all made mistakes, but it was that's the way you learn, and definitely.
Okay, so you get the idea. Terry, who is a terrific sailor, you've got a 2-boat, he's got a 2-boat testing program up there, so he's going to be pretty darn good, right?
I believe so.
Does Mr. Hesse from Youngstown Yacht Club does he have a chance?
Oh, I think if you look at his lineup, he's got some pretty good sailors with him. His helmsman is a guy by the name of Adam Burns. Adam is a 3-time NCAA All-American. He's out of Old Dominion. He has won Melges 24 North American Championships, and he won it as in a Corinthian boat. He has won Stoltz Cup, Richardson Cup. So this guy's Adam's he's pretty talented. He was helmsman of Echem against Hollandia in 2016, and he was tough on the starting line. So I wouldn't write them off by any stretch.
Okay, well that's good. So this is not his first time. I can say this to somebody who's living in Calgary. It's not his first time at the rodeo.
No, it's not. In addition, he's got his team manager is a gentleman by the name of Chris Doyle. And Chris was his team manager back in 2016. But, Chris Doyle, I've got some of his stats here. He's won the J22 World Championship. He's a 3-time North American Championship in J22s. He's won midwinters. So he too is no slouch. So, I think Terry's had some good practice, but these guys got some pretty good numbers behind them as well.
One question before we forget, Julie, I see it's popped up. Would be nice to have, this is Gordon Smith in Denmark saying, would be nice to have a vlog from the event. Can you share, are you going to tweet or something? Is there going to be something, updates as the racing goes on? And then the other question is, what about video? Bill Parker in Cincinnati saying it looks like it will be great match racing. Is there a chance it will have any video, either live or otherwise?
James, you want me to take?
I'll give that a start. For absolutely sure, we are gearing up everything we can in video land, drone land, and Al's done a great job of getting us one of everyone's favorite photographers to come by. So I think we're going to have
Is her name Green?
Happens to be Green.
Sharon Green. She is all of our favorite photographers.
Exactly. So we're getting more and more excited about this. You got to remember, we really only got the starting gun for this event about a week and a half ago. The good news is we had a lot of the homework done. It's been the persistence and spirit of Allan really that's kept us on track, because we could have lost our way many times. So now we're catching up, and the video we think could be spectacular.
No doubt, and that's why I think a lot of our, we're big match racing fans here. The GovCon, I just spent a week down there helping Andy Rose and Chris Bretschker and co televise that. We did 9 shows in 6 days at both the Gov Cup and then a took a week off, and then the following week did another 9 shows, the morning shows and so on. It's not easy to do, but it's also not rocket science. So anything like that you can do, I think you'll have an audience, don't you think, Julia?
Absolutely, and the relatives of the participants will be your biggest fans.
Yeah, that's the other thing. We do the GovCup stuff for the friends and family of those kids. And what has happened now is that it's actually, and I kid you not, it's selling drinks at the bar at the yacht club, because now and I don't like the word, but it's also helping with making the regatta more green or sustainable, because when you are out there streaming it, we're finding that people are gathering in the yacht club bar, which is helping the bar take, and they're not going out on their power boats to watch it, and if they are, they're still watching it on their phone or something. But let's any comment on that before we move over to the yachts and the crew complement and the amateur rule and women and men and so on?
Well, just quickly, we've got a team of 3 or 4 people that are working on the technology side. Our hope is that we're going to have some live streaming from the boats themselves with Race Tracker.
Wow.
We're hopeful we're going to have some drone footage of, just to reiterate, from starts to mark rounding. So we're doing the best we can. We acknowledge that people want to see it, and we will do our best at getting this out to the world.
Okay, Jamie, before we go back to the boat, let me switch to Jamie. There's a question here from Gordon Smith, not a cardboard bed in sight. And Jamie, you got to say something so that it'll auto switch over to you.
I'm here.
There you go. And that references to our regular reporter who's been reporting. In fact, 2 of our FOSI have been reporting from the Olympics from their cardboard beds. They actually weren't cardboard beds because they weren't in the village, but they were in their hotel rooms. But this is, who is it, Julia? Gordon Smith, right? He
Yes.
said, it looks like a cool, no, Stingray says, looks like a very cool room Jamie is speaking from. Can you tell us about the models and about, what's
Yeah.
Kittywake?
Well. So Kittywake's that black boat right behind my head. And that was the vessel used to kidnap me and my brother by my parents and take us to the Caribbean. So that's just a little personal history in my office here.
How old were you when you got kidnapped?
I was about 15 years of age.
Perfect.
And you've never regretted it, not a minute, right?
Not at all.
While I've got you and we're looking at your wall, what are the other boats, and what about your new boat that you're going to go yacht racing, I guess, tonight?
Oh, well, the new boat's up in the corner, just a VX1, and I sure got to say, we're very, very lucky at the RCYC. We've been able to build a fleet of over 20 VX1s in a hurry last 2 or 3 years now, and we're not finished. So we're hoping to join the rest of North America in one of we think is pretty good up and coming one design fleet, and we're kind of using it as a test for the IC37s, as some of the same features without all the thrills and spills, though. Not quite as challenging.
May I ask you if you just move your head slightly to your left, so we can reveal that you of course were Commodore, past Commodore, and apparently twice you were Commodore, but I don't know if everybody can see that. I'm going to go in close on that shot, but I'm told, tell me if this is true or not, I'm told that you, and that's not actually your Burgee, but that's the Commodore's ensign, right? That you would display once you're the Commodore.
Yeah, so when you get your send-off as Commodore at our club, you get a framed version of the Commodore's Burgee, and your partner wife tends to make sure it stays in your office as opposed to goes anywhere else in the house. So that's where it is.
But is it true? Is it true?
What the memo that I didn't get was, there's your Burgee, now go away. Anyway, I got an invite back, which was very kind of them, but some people will be curious about my level of intelligence.
But that's we all wonder about that. And having been, Julia's the current Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club, and I've been Commodore of a couple of clubs. But move back to your left, if you would, sir, because I want to ask you that question. Is it true that you're the only yacht club in the world, that is Royal Canadian Yacht Club, the esteemed club in Toronto, the only club in the world with a beaver on its Burgee?
Now. So the beaver is the national animal in Canada. This is you may have an eagle, but we're all about the beaver. And that's an industrious animal,
Yes.
I'll add. That's an animal that contributes to the ecology. We're very proud of that animal, and the RCYC is proud to use it on the Virgin.
I'm not making fun of it at all. And Allan, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I could not possibly add to what Jamie has just done. No.
And as I said, having grown up and spent a lot of time in Canada, and my wife is Canadian and so on, but you have a bar at the RCYC that celebrates that Burgee, don't you?
Well, we've had various bars at the RCYC. One of the more current popular ones is in our city clubhouse called the Crown and Beaver. And yes, it is a very well frequented establishment.
Well, we have, I watched your basketball team from the Crown and Beaver not too long ago when I was up there. But Gordon Smith is saying, I'm just waiting for, we have a Fozy down in Sydney. It's an Australian who's a bit of a cheeky mate. And Gordon Smith says, I'm just waiting for Jody to jump in here with some comments. But let's move ahead before that happens. Let's go to the yacht. So I've got, who wants to do the voiceover on this video?
Oh, I want that.
You do? Tell us about, I'll roll the tape. Tell us about this training session that Terry McLaughlin had, and you've got your two IC-37s last weekend.
Right. Well, what you're seeing is just one set of conditions. The good news is we've had just about every set of conditions. This is as gorgeous as it can be, and I hesitate to say Tom will give me something for this, but it was pretty champagne-like.
Champagne sailing conditions.
I know. So the boats are busy, as you can see. Lots of maneuvering and getting their feet under them on not just light and lovely conditions, but all conditions. What you don't know is this picture's looking, it looks like it could be on the ocean, doesn't it? But it's looking straight across the lake. The city's behind you from this shot, and straight ahead of you, roughly, is Niagara-on-the-Lake and Youngstown Yacht Club, probably about some 30 miles away from this particular position. So we're kind of pointing at our future competitor there and practicing away, thinking about them. And the standard boys to starboard match racing, always very confusing for the rest of us, but here they go. And we're really proud of this. What we didn't talk about earlier when Terry was talking is how not just are the hotshot racers out on these boats as they turn back towards the city, but the club with Terry has activated a club-wide participation in the IC-37s. And we've got lots of our juniors, lots of our other teams, certainly a huge female contingent. We've got some amazing female racers at the yacht club, have been very active on the boat. So in the off days, these boats are getting lots of more use by the rest of the club members. And it's become a real community builder this year when we've needed to rebuild community in the time of COVID.
Terrific stuff. And let me go back to that shot, because for those of you who've been to Toronto and know the RCYC and the Island Station, when we were doing our tech check earlier this morning, the gentleman pointed out to me that we're looking north, but we're looking north from the lake, from Lake Ontario, across Toronto Island, where the clubhouse, the Island Clubhouse is. And then you can see, of course, obviously behind that, the city, and they have another station in the beautiful downtown station. And that is, of course, the CN Tower, if that's what it's still called. Fabulous town. It looks like a great sailing venue. So you're actually sailing out in the lake because there's more consistent breeze or more breeze or what?
Precisely. Allan, do you want to take that one? I mean, it really is the best venue for a fair event.
Well, it's interesting because early in some of the discussions, we considered trying to race inside the harbor and have some stadium type sailing, that you see like the Congressional Cup or, that you see in the Gold Cup. But the harbor it's a little small. It could be a little shallow on on the outside. The wind, depending on the direction, can be very shifty. So for consistency and fair sailing, we elected to move it, to keep it outside. It has traditionally been maybe 3 or 4 miles off Toronto Island, and we're heading back out to that same race area. Well,
while we're on the class and the racing, you've as I understand it, you basically incorporated the IC37 class rules into the Canada's Cup, and that means that you will be using amateurs and at least 2 women or at least 2 men on each of the yachts. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's correct. We wanted to stay as close as we could to the IC37 class rules. There were some that we deleted, such as, the helmsman has to be a member of the 37 class association, or the helmsman has to be approved, and there's others that just plain old didn't make sense. We did stay with the same weight limit, and we maintained the 2 opposite gender rule. So if there's it's a boat of women, they've got to carry 2 men, and if it's a boat of men, they got to carry 2 women. So we maintained that, and I think that's just it's just the inclusivity of the sport, and I think that was one of the great decisions that New York Yacht Club made when they were developing this class and developing the rules.
I agree, and Julia isn't necessarily in agreement. She doesn't think we should have mandates on gender because she's been always a tough top woman in what had been a man's world. But I personally salute you, and I think, and I know Julia doesn't disagree with the concept, but I think it's great for our sport, guys. I'm really pleased that you're doing this, and I know not everybody agreed with me down at Balboa Yacht Club because the Gov Cup is open. We've had an all-female crew, we've had an all-male, typically all-male crews. You can sail with 3 or 4 in those Gov Cup 22s, but World Sailing at the Youth Worlds requires that at least one of the crew be either a male or a female, and you're doing the same for the IC37. I think it's great. What about the amateur rule?
Well, it's interesting because
you cleared your throat. I didn't mean to be controversial here.
No, you're not. But it's been a bit of a touchy topic, and we've had, just like the decision to keep the event in Toronto the decision to go with strictly amateur was a tough one as well, and we made that decision at a time when. The IC37 was all amateur sailors. We had some yacht clubs that declined to participate because there were no professionals allowed, and we had some yacht clubs express interest because there were no professionals allowed. So really, we were at both ends of the spectrum, and at the end of the day, we felt there's a lot of high-level world-class events out there that professionals can participate in. There are very few high-level world-class amateur events out in the world right now. Other than New York Yacht Club's Invitational Cup, it could be that the Canada's Cup might be the only one.
That's true.
Yeah, no, that may well be true, Julia. And it's interesting, and I think it's great to see we'll all see how this plays out and what the market says in terms of challenges, because that's the nice thing about a Challenge Cup, right? Anything else before we wrap up?
That covers the waterfront for me, Allan.
Well, Tom, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to get our message out to the world. Craig Lewick and Scuttlebutt was offered to help by putting our article out, and you having us on your show is very much appreciated. And we hope we put on a first-rate event that everybody will be really proud of and pleased to watch. Well,
our great pleasure. And as I said, do keep us posted. Particularly, let us know the links and where the videos and so on, and we'll run them. And I'll take this segment. We're starting to take segments. Like I did with the Terry Hutchinson interview, and I'll probably take the James Pleasant segment from the show, because these shows, as you know, go on for an hour, hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, sometimes 3, much to the dismay of my co-host.
How can anybody be interested that long?
Well,
they are.
But our viewership goes up and up the longer they are because of the churn.
Amazing.
But gentlemen, thank you. And what I will do is I'll take this and carve out just this section and then put it up on YouTube because we put the shows up also on YouTube so people can watch them there in replay. And I think this is very informative, very helpful, and I appreciate it very much indeed. From Calgary, we got Allan Megarry, when do you go back to Toronto, Allan?
Actually, I've got to fly down to LA a week today, and I'm in LA and Newport Harbor for one evening, and then the Sunday the 29th I fly to Toronto for the event.
Wow.
Right.
Good.
Jamie, if he doesn't make it back, you'll run the show, no doubt. You're the co-chair of this event, co-chairs.
It will. The show will go on.
Okay. Well, congratulations, Bravo Zulu, for what you're all doing. We really appreciate your coming on today too.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks
ciao.
so much.
And if you want to stay, you're welcome to stay too. And if you have to go, I know Jamie wants to go sailing in his new non-such. What is it? A non-such what?
33, my friend.
33.
Good.
Next time
Yeah.
I come to Toronto, and if it's not hockey weather, can we go for a sail?
You'd love it.
At the Beaver and before or after the Beaver and Crown Bar?
It's the Crown and Beaver, sir.
Crown and Beaver. And I just want you all to know, Julia knows this, that the Fozy on here, you know, these guys and gals that follow us regularly, they have a drinking key, a code word.
Yeah.
And each show, when they suspect that we're going to rant about, tell me what, about world sailing or the Finn class or one of the other things we rant about or mention regularly, they have decided that they are each going to take a drink every time we mention the word. You can say it, Julia. You missed it.
I did see it.
It wasn't Crown, believe me.
No, Beaver.
Yes, Beaver. So every time we say Beaver,
They get
Bieber. You keep, you sent Justin Bieber down here. You can have Justin Bieber back, but we love your Beavers. Thanks, guys. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Talk soon.
All the best.
Okay.
You, Julie.
Ciao. Julia, that's a nice segment, eh?
Yep.
Okay, so that is the Royal Canadian Yacht Club's Canada's Cup. They're hosting it this time and next time, win, lose, or draw, in the IC-37s. This beautiful shot of the team of Terry McLaughlin training. And I'm impressed, and Allan Megarry saying how strong the competition is going to be from the Youngstown of New York Yacht Club. That series, the racing starts on the 2nd of September, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And I still see Allan hanging there. Allan, let me come back, turn your mic up, and ask you, what is it? First to win what? Did you mute yourself?
Yeah, I am.
There you
go
go.
ahead, Tom. Go ahead, Tom.
No,
Yes.
what is, it's first to win how many races?
6 points.
6, so 6 points. Normally 6 wins, but if you're penalized, you got to, okay. So
Yes.
that's 6 is what, best of 11?
Correct. So it's 3 races a day, starting at 11 o'clock on Thursday the 2nd, and 3 races a day. So I mean, technically, it could be over Friday afternoon, although I certainly hope not. And I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it go to the end of Saturday and early Sunday.
It wouldn't we all? And that's it's our Labor Day weekend here in the U.S. Do you celebrate a holiday as well, right? Labor Day as well in Canada?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Well, fantastic. Have a great event. Thank you, sir, for coming on.
No, thank you.
Allan Megarry, along with Jamie Keating. Allan and Jamie are the co-chairs for this year's, and postponed. It was postponed from 2020. We've been talking about it with them on this show for some years now, and of course postponed due to COVID. But bravo Zulu to them, because I'm not sure I mentioned this, Julia, but they just have opened the border. You heard Commodore Keating say,
Yeah.
Jamie say that it's just been made possible in the last, 11 or 12 days, because the border between Canada and the U.S. was closed
I know.
until the 9th of
it was-
August. And, if this COVID Delta thing and somebody gets a hair in there, you know what? Burn, since Allan's out in Calgary, I can say a burr in his saddle. But if that happens again, it could close down just like, they locked down Auckland or Melbourne or tell me what. So bravo Zulu to them, terrific stuff. Thanks for coming on, and I'll carve that into a separate segment for YouTube. We'll take a pause, and then we'll carry on. Okay, this day in history, Julia. Do you know what happened on this day in history?
Well, pretty much. It's
20, and it's 2 days, because it's the 20th here in the U.S. It's the 21st down under,
Yeah.
New Zealand and in Australia,
It's
in
a
Oz.
170th anniversary.
Exactly. This is not a big mystery. 1851 is the year we're talking about. So it's the 170th anniversary of the Cup. And on this day, if you look at the week's schedule, it wasn't just the Cup there on Friday, August 22nd, the RYS 100-pound Cup, but on the 20th was Prince Albert's Cup, not to be confused with a Prince Albert, let alone a beaver. And then there was on the 21st, which you would be celebrating down under. Hamish Ross is probably having a ball tonight in honor of the 170th anniversary of the Royal Yachts. Why are you smiling?
Oh, because I like his style.
Well, Hamish and I, as you know, Julia, Hamish agreed to come on. In fact, we even talked about him, but I'd already teed up the guys from Canada's Cup and their events happening, and we didn't want to wait. But Hamish is going to come on, and we're going to do a historical thing about the deed and about the Cup in this 170th year as soon as we can get that arranged. But it is true that this would be there were several events. I'll back that slide up. There were several events in the week, Her Majesty's Cup, and then an annual dinner. You know, they were not too aggressive about their racing. You had a race, then you had a dinner, then you had a day off for a dinner, then you had a race, and then you had the ball.
Most important.
Most important to have a ball. And then, of course, the Royal Yacht Squadron's not 100 Guinea Cup, not Queen's Cup, the 100-pound Cup, as the late, great Bob Fisher reminded us whenever we discussed that. Here's a quick video, a terrific video, in fact, that was published earlier this year for the 2021 America's Cup down in New Zealand. I think I've aired it before, but it's worth a look again as it goes over the 170 years history of the oldest trophy in international sport. Roll tape.
170 years. That's a long time. 170 years ago today, the first car was still 35 years off. The Wright brothers' first flight, 52. That's 10 years before the start of the American Civil War. 45 before the birth of the modern Olympic Games. It's the year the refrigerator was invented. Times change, so they say. Well,
The America's Cup. The symphony of sea and sky and sail.
some things, they stay the same. 170 years ago, the oldest trophy in world sport was won for the very first time. A sailing race around the Isle of Wight in England. A radical-looking yacht called America beat the British on home waters and took the trophy back to the United States. The legend of the America's Cup had begun, and the winning of it has dominated the sport ever since. For well over a century, the New York Yacht Club welcomed challenger after challenger, but none could take the cup from the Americans. Until another radical yacht sailed into the history books again.
They have won the America's Cup! They have done it!
Just like the obsession to win, innovation in the America's Cup never stops. In 2021, the 36th America's Cup will be raced in a new class. You don't need to reinvent the wheel, they say. Sorry about that. We've reinvented the sailors too. A new breed of athlete, part machine, part scientist, engineered to perform at the edge. And the defenders this time? Watch out.
The America's Cup wrestles from the USA. The trophy belongs to New Zealand.
New Zealand have been on 6 America's Cup start lines in the last 7 editions. If there's a super team in this sport, these guys are it.
The America's Cup is now New Zealand's cup!
But keeping the cup won't be a walk in the park. Remember that 170-year-old drive to win? So, yeah, the America's Cup. Not your average sporting contest. For the 36th time, this is history in the making.
Still one of my favorite America's Cup videos, and it's recent. As you can tell, it was done just before Auckland. And, you know, apropos what the Canadians are doing, what Jamie and Allan are doing with their event, maybe the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron ought to take a page out of their book and do something radical like run the event 2 times a row in the same venue.
Wow.
Is that all you can say?
Well, no, because there's been a great string of championships that have been enumerated on comments, which some great championships do rotate.
Not many. I mean, they talked about Ryder Cup. They talk about the U.S. Open golf and a few things, but
yeah,
it's cool when you run in the same venue year after year.
That's much more practical.
It helps to build things up.
Yep.
You know what? Editing like this is where the cut lasts less than 1 second is so annoying. This is David James saying, I guess it's supposed to appeal to the younger generation, but I doubt that was the target audience for this video. We show their sponsors here, but yeah, I agree, David. I think we all, this whole kind of MTV-esque quick cutting is Croutonic. I think most of us would agree. Speaking of Croutonic, Julia, there are some comments here.
Yes.
That this is a family show. I mean, we can say Beaver and over and over again, but some of these other comments are like jockstraps and Prince Alberts and in the camp. Oh, this is Croutonic. Maybe funny though. Okay, let's get to the Cup. The America's Cup, our Cup date, AC 37 Cup date. Speaking of the venue, this is Richard Gladwell's article today. America's Cup. Several of you saw the report in the Irish. I think it was the Irish Times. Irish slap a £200 million price tag on hosting the Cup if, in fact, Cork, Ireland gets it. Irish media reporting that America's Cup hosting would cost more than £200 million if the Emerald Isle is successful in its bid to host the 37th Cup. The host, quote, the host country is essentially liable to cover the cost of hosting the event. The case needs to be very strong and robust and has to stand up to independent scrutiny, unquote, said a government source familiar with the project in a report in the Irish Times. Cork Harbour is one of the shortlisted venues along with Valencia, Spain, and maybe a wildcard venue. Emirates Team New Zealand will not release a list of the venues, which were cut from 35 reported elsewhere to just 3 around 3 weeks ago. This is Gladwell writing today in sail-world.com. He goes on, and this I won't read the whole article because Richard does tend to be prolific. The Irish cost estimate is not dissimilar to the reported cost for the New Zealand in the 36th America's Cup, where government and council officials decided to dump all the infrastructure cost and redevelopment of rundown waterfront areas into the, quote, cost, unquote, of the 36th America's Cup, which is fair. I think Richard's observation is fair and correct.
Right.
It is assumed that the same flawed accounting model of adding infrastructure asset cost to the event cost has been used in the Irish assessment.
Sounds like it.
The Auckland America's Cup costs, cited by the media, Auckland Council and NZ government costs included wharf repairs, land decontamination, and stormwater replacement extension, and a lot of planned public works brought forward to the America's Cup. That's Richard Gladwell writing in today, in a post today to sail-world.com. Rich, of course, our friend regular on here is a Fozy, terrific yachting journalist, one of the best in the world. And we will get Richard on here sooner than later to talk about all of these venues, what he knows, what he doesn't know, which is probably not a lot more than we think we know. You know where that is, Julia? That is Cork, Ireland, just celebrating their 301st anniversary of the Royal Cork Yacht Club.
It's my first port on Europe.
Cork?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, less than 300 years ago, though, I trust.
Not much.
Well, there is 2 of the purported venues. Everyone everyone who is in the know seems to, and we included, think that Cork and Valencia are in the mix. That, of course, a shot of the Velas Events. I couldn't come up with a name a few weeks ago. That building there, the Pancake Building. Where is it here? Let me take to that.
Wrong screen.
Yeah, take to it there. There we go.
Yep.
That is, some people call it the Pancake Building, but that's Velas Events, which in Valenciano, not necessarily Spanish, Velas, V-E-L-E-S-A, which means and, unlike E in Spanish, E-A. Vents, V-E-N-T-S, which means wind, or in Spanish it's viento. Velas Events Building. Purpose built for that event, that is the America's Cup, and it was used both in 2007 and less so in 2010. But that whole harbor was reconfigured, And it's a bit, to be fair, it's a cool facility, but today it's a bit of a white elephant. Valencia, Spain. Now, our good friend Matt Sheehan weighed in this morning with his report on Planet Sail. I'm not going to play the whole thing, I don't think, but he's got some inside tips on
It's
the
been
venue.
a busy old time for
Matt
the Royal
Sheehan.
Yacht Squadron here in Cowes, particularly in the summer. What with Cowes Week, a bumper Fastnet, then hosting the 44 Cup. There's been plenty going on, but there's been a lot happening behind the scenes too, because since taking on the role as Challenger of Record after the last America's Cup down in Auckland, the clock's been counting down. The trouble is, we're not quite sure what it's counting down to. But in a few weeks' time, we'll know, because on the 17th of September, the new venue for the next America's Cup will be announced, and possibly some more. As you might expect, there's been plenty of speculation since the Kiwis successfully defended the Cup as to where it would take place next. Normally, you'd expect it to be hosted in the nation that were hanging on to it, so another round in Auckland. But it's not as simple as that. Hosting the America's Cup is a very, very expensive thing to do. In fact, as a rule of thumb, most people talk about hosting it as being the same as actually paying for an entire campaign. So you're thinking about, I don't know, 100 million? It depends on how much infrastructure you have to build, but 100 million sterling upwards, it's expensive. So the trouble is that after the last America's Cup, there was questions over whether there would be sufficient funds in New Zealand or even the appetite to go through the whole thing all over again. So that led to some pretty interesting speculation as to where the Cup might go next, fueled by a project that had been triggered just before Christmas to look into potential other venues. That investigation was actually triggered and commissioned by Grant Dalton and Emirates Team New Zealand. So among the many contenders that have been discussed, from what I'm hearing, there are 3 front runners. In no particular order, there's Valencia. Well, what a place that would be. The infrastructure's there, it's got a fantastic harbour, it's proven itself as being able to host the biggest of America's Cups. But their problem is that they don't have any money. At least that's what I'm hearing. Money isn't such a problem, I suspect, for Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, which is another venue that's been talked about as being a possibility. Difficult to know whether that would be popular or not. I suspect for all kinds of reasons it might not be. And then the third venue is Cork in Ireland. Yep, Cork. Fantastic place. Anybody who's sailed there for Cork Week will know that not only is it a fantastic place to sail, but their hospitality is legendary. But it still raises a couple of questions. As anybody who's been there will know, it's quite a compact place. It's difficult to imagine where they would build the infrastructure for a full-on America's Cup. Plus, the waters. It's tricky. There's no big area. It's not like the Hauraki Gulf. You can get outside, but it's pretty big stuff out there. Big swells, and it's a bit of a trek to get out there too. But hey-ho, the Cup's overcome all kinds of problems in 170 years. No doubt they'll crack that one. And of course there is Auckland, New Zealand. Now, I wouldn't rule that out just yet. It didn't sound too promising a few months ago. There didn't sound to be anywhere near enough money to actually host the next Cup, let alone whether public opinion would allow it. But what I'm hearing now is, along with the government's promise of putting forward, I think it was 40 million Kiwi dollars, there was talk of some backing, some private backing coming in to top that up. Whether that happens or not, I don't really know, but I suspect, as is normally the case, there will be strings attached, and it'll be those strings that potentially cause a few problems. So when might it be? Well, again, what I'm hearing is 2024 is the date for the next America's Cup. That would be quite interesting because it would clash with the Olympics, but I'm told that's being considered and that it's pretty optimistic that this could actually take place. That'd make for a pretty special year. So what about the teams? Well, the one team that's definitely going to be there is Team New Zealand. They're the
Okay, so
defenders.
that's a great report by Matt Sheehan, and we won't run the rest of it. But go to his Planet Sail YouTube page because he does lots of high quality videos, and he's a great reporter in our sport. I'll let the video run as he's talking about the various teams, and I'm not at all. The idea of going to Jeddah. I mean, excuse me, notwithstanding what's going on now in the world, but I think Abu Dhabi is a much more likely place. They're doing Formula One there very successfully. It's a little bit more modern and a little bit more open society, shall we say. I still think, notwithstanding what Matt Sheehan has just said, I still think the Solent is still high on the list, and I think Matt is right that Auckland now is back in the mix. In the mix.
Could be.
So we shall see. I do think, as we told you a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago anyway, that we are now hearing with regularity that it is going to be not a one-on-one match, as was widely speculated, including by us, but it's going to be in 2024. And remember, if it's in early 2024, that doesn't conflict with the Olympics, just like this time the Olympics were in 2021, of course, and the America's Cup was in 2021, and it all happened, and I wouldn't be surprised if 2024 is the call. Now, how is Terry Hutchins and his American Magic team going to shape up? What club are they going to challenge to? Will they go back and amalgamate with New York and with Mike Buckley and with Taylor Canfield? You know, there are discussions going on, so one hears.
Be surprising.
Yeah, I think you're right at this stage. So anyway, go to Matt Sheehan's. This is an old interview he did with Alinghi. The idea of Alinghi coming back in, I think, it was highly suspect, but we shall see.
Nice interview, though.
No, it was a good interview, indeed, and all the stuff Matt does is terrific. Look at this; those big IACC boats are great. And Alinghi, of course, is doing catamarans, but that's afar in the what is the circuit that he's doing?
GP. GP.
No, they're not doing SailGP.
Oh, they're not.
No, Alinghi he and Russell, remember, don't exactly see eye to eye.
No,
so. Okay, so that's Matt Sheehan, that nice Planet Sail interview. I commend it to you and his entire YouTube channel. Go have a look. And speaking of the Olympics, which of course just ended, we've got a quick video from World Sailing here. I thought you should see. They're patting themselves on the back for their program that brought in new nations, diversity, a little bit of diversity, and then we have John Emmett's twice a week report right after that. Have a look. Emerging Nations Program, they call it, produced 8 Tokyo. Competitors run in collaboration with the IOC Olympic Solidarity. The sailors earned their place in the laser and laser radials. The Emerging Nations Program started in 2015 and has provided sailors with opportunities to perform and inspire. At Tokyo 2020, we were delighted to welcome, and then they named the various sailors. Indian laser radial sailor, Egypt's, I won't try to pronounce the names because I'll fail, Papua New Guinea's laser sailor, Antigua's sailor in the laser, she's a laser and laser radial, Papua New Guinea sailor, a Fijian lady in the laser radial.
علي بدوي وبشكر التضامن الأولمبي.
Muito obrigado, Olímpico Solidário.
Okay, Julia, what do you think?
I think Morris Stevens says, might I say, Tom, that you do a wonderful interview. You create atmosphere that allows for a conversation.
Well, thank you for that. But and Maura will come back. And Maura, of course, a Canadian, and she's probably celebrating her fellow Canadians. Allan and Jamie Keating, Allan Megarry and Jamie Keating.
Yeah.
But back on this video,
Right.
I liked it. I'm a big fan of what they did. I
Yes.
like Olympic Solidarity. John Emmett tells us it's a great program. And I know people like Gus Miller and Luca Devoti and others who've been coaching sailors from other countries that
Yes.
wouldn't necessarily get to the Olympics, or if they do get there, they wouldn't be competitive. And I hope John Emmett is doing more of that as well, not just coaching. I know he is, not
Yeah,
just coaching
right.
top sailors, because it's good for our
everybody,
for our sport, right?
And the boat and the kind of boat is also good because it allows people in.
Well, it's all right. The laser, now 50-year-old laser.
Yeah.
And they're still celebrating. Well, let's watch Emmett's video, and then I wish he'd come back from his party and record it after the party. A lot of you said after he had his shirt and bow tie on and vest. Have a look. This is the report from John he sent in this morning.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. Quite a quick one this week. Just finished the laser, or should I say ILCA Nationals. It was 271 boats, but actually I think it would have been far more, because we've got the Under-21 Worlds taking place and various other events also happening at the same time of year. We've got Pool Week here starting on Sunday, which will again be a very large fleet of sailors, mainly the club level sailors. So the whole season seems to have been condensed into August. Otherwise, for sure, we would have had over 300 boats. I hope this is recording okay. When the Nationals finished, I think I fancy going out for a bit of reminiscing. I went to a Japanese restaurant and I had a few beers, and on the way back I did drop my phone onto the floor on the road, on the tarmac, and the screen didn't like it very much. So unfortunately that's 2 phones in about 3 weeks, but it does seem to be recording okay. So here I am. No rest for the wicked. We have a couple of days off, and then we have a transitional week next week. That's Monday to Friday, and that's just to give a really warm welcome to all the new people to the class. So that's people coming from Optimist or Mirrors or Toppers, transitioning into the ILCA 4, or indeed people going from the ILCA 4 to the ILCA 6, or the ILCA 6 to the ILCA 7. So we have fully coached events, and of course all the socials. But it's not just the ILCA class which is doing this. Many classes are very active at the moment. The Aeros are currently having their nationals, as are the Devoti D0s. So sailing in the UK is alive and well, thanks to all the hard work of the clubs and classes. And the aspirants for Marseille are definitely cracking away. As I said, we've got the under-21s coming up. We need to remember that people like Ben Ainsley actually won medals as teenagers. And one of the things I'm really looking forward to is watching the Sail GP. Unfortunately, not possible to show it on TFE live, but I would encourage people to watch that, because I think it's really good racing. And of course, everyone's a critic. I would have perhaps liked to see the courses a little bit further offshore. It looked a bit like snakes and ladders watching the racing today. But it just seems, even the days I'm not on the water, I'm definitely watching sailing. And the restart of sailing, I think, is something that we can take advantage of. COVID has obviously been a terrible thing, but it's enabled us to think actually what's really important and what is the aspects we love about sailing, and to actually take that opportunity to remodel the sport. Tomorrow I'm going to be helping out with the cadets 11, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And I remember the people who helped out when I was young. I actually got into sailing with an organisation called the Nautical Training Corps, which is very much like the Scouts. We did canoeing and kayaking, rock climbing, camping, sailing, orienteering. And without those people who encouraged me, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. So I think the next generation is very, very important. And to all the people in the media doing a fantastic job, I just think it's about changing the media to make the sailing look good, rather than trying to change sailing to help the media. And that's my final thought, and looking forward to being back on the water again tomorrow. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, John Emmett. Sorry to hear about his phone. That's 2 phones in a month, I think. And it came, I guess he recorded it on his computer, hence why he's got the earbuds in to be sure his audio was good. But Gordon Smith, I really enjoyed John's vlogs. I mean, the guy turns his camera on and talks.
Yes.
Which, you know, for some of us, Julia, is not that hard.
You do it easily. But he has the advantage of he knows exactly what he's talking about.
Well, and he's put some thought into it, too,
Yeah.
you know, and he's thought about what he's going to say and why, and he pings me ahead of time, hey, how about if this is the theme for today? And, of course, I've never said no, because just having him come on is wonderful. And you see David James's comment on here?
Yes.
David James says, no mystery why, you know, we win 0 medals and Great Britain does so well. Listen to David, who's a good friend of ours, who lives St. Francis member, lawyer, smart guy, notwithstanding he went to Stanford, Julia. We'll hold that against him. Listening to this, it's pretty obvious why the U.S. won 0 Olympic medals. We have nothing comparable. Yeah, and as Stingray said, 271 boats in just a celebratory regatta for the laser. And it's, well, part of that is the pent-up demand from COVID, and now people are going out and going sailing. So bravo, Zulu, nice stuff. John, back on the America's Cup for a second, because everybody wants to talk about venue and America's Cup. John Lambert's fan, Biren, is saying, I feel Valencia would be an amazing place for the AC 75. Perfect, moderate waves and wind. The 32nd Cup sailing, an event was superb. Let's hope the major somehow can figure out somehow can figure out a way to capitalize on that rather than walk away. Maybe means the mayor. You think the mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the problem is that the mayor's already said, you know, we don't have any money. We're still paying the bills from 2007 and 2010, and it's tough time COVID-wise also in Spain and Valencia. Talking to our friends there, Nicolo Porzio. I haven't talked to Luca in a week or so, but we'll talk to him. But that Ilka class, the laser class, whatever you want to call it, is just fantastic. And the celebrations that are going on around the world for that class, well deserved. What else? Oh, the Mozambique sailors, Emmett is saying the Mozambique sailors had COVID on entering Japan and had to quarantine until day 7 when they had 2 negative tests. Mm-hmm. Well, again, I think that was handled pretty well. Thanks for your kind comment, Morris Stevens, that Julia read a few minutes ago. There was one other comment I wanted to grab, but maybe I've gone too far past it now. Wow, a lot of comments.
Yes, lots.
It was a comment about Cork. It's Yarvahe's comment. That's the one I wanted to do, Julia. Cork lacks hotel rooms, stable breeze in the harbor, and sufficient taxpayers to pay for it. Mm-hmm. Would be a massive grin, though, Yarvahe is saying. Well, that's probably true. Julie, anything else on any of the comments or any of these topics before we go to our D block, our final block here?
I think we can move on.
If you're just joining us, we're about an hour and a half in for TFE Live, our show number 447 for the Friday the 20th of August. Thanks for joining us. And let's go to Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Ted Ryman has become our regular. We're going to rename this the Ted Ryman WTF segment because he's always sending in clever things for this. I'll just wait till this. Those of you who are too young to remember the Tijuana Brass.
Yes.
Remember the name of this song?
Yes.
Julia. Taste of Honey.
I was going to say Taste of Honey, but I thought, oh, that's wrong.
Okay, I'm going to turn that down before I get a copyright strike. Speaking of taste not of honey, but of blood, Ted sent this in. Do you know that the 20th of August is World Mosquito Day? It is observed to acknowledge and honor, why didn't they call it Sir Ronald Ross Day or Malaria Day or something? The World Mosquito Day is to honor Sir Ronald Ross, a British doctor who discovered that female mosquitoes were responsible for the transmission of malaria. He made that discovery in 1897. And mosquitoes, it turns out, you know, I didn't have to do too much research because Ted sent quite a long, he sent a link, and I didn't believe it. I didn't believe there was a World Mosquito Day. But mosquitoes are about the most dangerous transmitter of disease. We'll have to ask McIrvin that, Dr.
Yeah, but
Mr.
there's
McIrvin.
a lot of evidence of that out of Africa, too.
Indeed. So it is National Mosquito Day, but I ask you, is it correct or croutonic Now see how cleverly I've woven these two segments
Yes.
together? We get Jody in here. Is it correct or crutonic, apropos World Mosquito Day, that mosquitoes prefer biting people who are drunk? Could also ask if they like to bite beavers, but I didn't put that in here because you would think, you'd shake your finger at
I
me.
would.
You didn't, though.
I didn't.
I'm hurt. I got the camera on you and you didn't. Is it true? Is it correct or crutonic? Mosquitoes prefer biting people who are drunk. I did not believe this. I think this is crutonic, Andrew McIrvin, and there may now be a vaccine against malaria. I wonder if that's because of all the stuff we're going through with COVID. No mention of Herb Alpert. Sorry, Gordon Smith. Yes, a taste of honey, Herb Alpert, of course. Herb Alpert in the Tijuana Brass. And also remember, there's a difference between Tijuana, the city, which is often improperly pronounced as Tijuana. It's not. It's Tijuana. There's no A second A. And the Tijuana River, which is the river with the A in it. But back to our mosquitoes. Is it correct or crutonic that mosquitoes prefer biting people who are drunk? I'm looking for comments.
No comments.
I'm only, Jody Shields has surfaced, ladies and gentlemen.
I know.
I'm only drunk when I'm drinking.
And therefore, only bitten when he's drinking.
David James, while you're they're all Googling it now to see if it's true. David James saying, for comparison's sake, last weekend we had the Northern California Laser Regatta, which is supposed to be the Olympic feeder ladder, total of 9 Ilka radials and 0 full rig lasers.
Ooh.
Here in the Bay. That was at St. Francis. That was it.
Yeah.
Morris Stevens says, correct, I think. Now, I did not believe this, and of course, I'm from the state of Michigan, where the state bird is the mosquito, and we got mosquitoes. I am so happy to be out of mosquito country. John Emmett has the answer. Correct. The percent mosquito landing on volunteers significantly increased after beer ingestion compared with before ingestion, showing clearly that drinking alcohol stimulates mosquito attraction. Jonathan Frank, with maybe the comment of the day, Julia, says it's a cheap buzz. Warren Schasser is joined from down in, Warren's down in Australia normally. Andrew McIrvin, we're going to ask Andrew about this, why this is true. But here's what I came up with. Yes, mosquitoes are certainly attracted to alcohol. This was on Google somewhere. There are a lot of mosquito species which are attracted to beer, but a French study found that the alcohol equivalent of 3 cans of beer could lead to a significant increase in mosquito bites. Avoiding alcohol consumption can help reduce the number of mosquito bites. Well, so can putting on some mosquito spray, and then you can drink beer or wine or tequila or whatever else you want.
But it doesn't mention hard liquor, and I
think it's any alcohol.
Well, but it doesn't cite any, and beer is sweet, and has a different.
No,
kind of thing.
When I was actually researching this today, there were other things that said, "Is it only beer?" And no, it was quite clear it was anything. It was alcohol, and Jody, mosquitoes like a certain blood type. I think they like type A for alcohol. Then somebody asked the question, do mosquitoes get drunk if they drink blood that has alcohol in it? And I don't know the answer to that. That is for another day, thank God. Right? Thanks to Ted Ryman for that. J. Frederick Bland is saying, wait, I'm scratching my head on this.
Oh, gosh. We had a ton of back talk.
And of course, it's the female mosquitoes who do the biting, right?
Of course.
So female mosquitoes are luscious, Allan Long is saying.
Oh, John Emmett says the type of alcohol is not important.
Yeah, that's what I saw. I saw that when I was looking at, because I really didn't believe it.
I don't believe it.
But it's true, apparently. Okay, enough of this madness. Our finish line today is just very simple. Same thing on Tuesday. I told you about the Sail Grand Prix. I'm not going to cover it, although we're making progress. I know they've had some great racing today. Sad to hear that one of the American crew members, Paul Campbell James, broke his leg in a training accident earlier this week.
I didn't see that.
Said he had to fly in a French sailor from Marseille who's flown up to Aarhus in Denmark, where this regatta is taking place, to go on the boat. I think Ben Ainsley is. I know Ben Ainsley's back on the British boat as skipper driver, and he won the last race today. It's now, what time is it there? It's 22:30 in London, so it's 23:30 in Aarhus. And apparently Ben won by a horizon job in that last race. So that racing continues through the 21st. So it's taking place Friday and Saturday, today and tomorrow, for the Rockwool Denmark Sail Grand Prix. But I'm not going to run any of their videos, preview or otherwise, because we've been getting copyright strikes when we do, because we don't get it when we run just about any other, none of those world sailing videos, not Matt Sheehan, not any other videos, but these guys are protecting their IP to a fairly well, and they're making a big mistake, in my opinion, because they'd be getting a lot more coverage. I wrote to Ms. Glickman, Mallory Glickman, about, I'm saying, until you guys fix this. She kindly wrote back, so sorry to hear about the copyright issue. I'm looking into this and have escalated it to Sail GP leadership. So hopefully that's progress. Hopefully Russell and Co will bless.
How many more races are there? 2?
Well, no, there's depending upon whether Sydney and Auckland or Sydney and Christchurch happen.
Yeah,
there's quite a number.
Oh,
so,
good.
and we want to play the videos. We want to show the preview videos and the videos that they run. They run good stuff, a minute and 20 seconds.
Right.
But if I run it and then get a copyright strike, and some of you say, well, that's automatic. They can't. Yes, they can control it. They do not have to put. Believe me, I deal with YouTube and Facebook on this now regularly. I've learned a fair bit about it. So, and U.S. viewers can't. Is that true, Yarvahe? Come on, Sail GP, lighten up. Jonathan Frank is saying, wins today were by Stingray is saying were by Denmark. Yay, USA and GBR. Nice. A black flag was thrown yesterday. That segment gave me quite a buzz. You guys. Well, at least we weren't talking about beavers. Have good health insurance for foiling or else. Yeah, poor CJ. How did he break his leg? Can any of you put in the comments, was he hit by a rudder or a? They didn't say in the press release. They said that both he and Jimmy Spithill were thrown out of the cockpits, but I didn't know if that meant they were thrown into the water or not. And because I'm not covering it, I haven't really had a look into it. Yarvahe, think we can butt. It was at 3:30 a.m. James Bland, the ILYA Inlands, which is, terrific event. The Interlake Yachting Association, which is Scout Country, which includes Minnesota, Wisconsin, the west part of Michigan. The inland championships are going. J. Frederick Bland, we're done now. Once Russell, here's Tom Ehman. And U.S. viewers can't watch. Is that true? You can't watch it live on YouTube? You have to get a VPN, I'm sure you'll be able. Yes, the Christchurch event has apparently been canceled because of COVID. And those of you in New Zealand, if you're still under lockdown, I talked to Hamish after Tuesday's show, and that's a 7-day lockdown, I think, from Monday, so it's through the weekend.
Oh, it's too bad.
No one in the water, Yahweh is saying. And thanks, John Lamberts von Buren. I don't know earlier. Okay, enough of all that.
Sail GP is up on YouTube.
It is, yeah, I'm sure the replays are now up on YouTube. Warren Schasser saying that Paul Campbell James, he fell across the deck, went on one hull. Okay, they almost capsized, and he tumbled into the better pod. Mm-hmm. What do you mean, Jody? The better pod, and he recovered and he finished the race with a broken leg. Am I the only one who heard the B word? We're not going to use the B word again. Julia's over there on her new iPad. How do you like that iPad, Julia? No, seriously, you don't like it?
It's easier to read, but I'm not used to dealing with it. I can only read with
Okay,
this.
well, you're doing great in the comments. Okay, that's it for us. Bill Haynes, I think CBS had the U.S. right, so no live in the U.S. unless you VPN. Cheers, Gordon Smith. Cheers, everybody. Just a reminder that on Tuesday next week, we will have Julia's maybe, along with the two Andrews. We got McIrvin and Pindar and Emmett and the other Brits whom she is. Why are you such a Britophile and Anglophile?
I'm not necessarily, but those guys are terrific.
They are. Yeah, we're delighted to have Andrew back on. He's not just going to talk about the bloody COVID, which we're all tired of hearing about. He's going to update us on the Maxi Association, what's going on with the Maxis. I got scissors sticking out of my shoulder back here, Julia. What the hell's that all about? Croutonic, talking about croutons.
Yeah.
He's going to update us on the IMA, the International Maxi Association, of which he is the esteemed Secretary General. He's going to talk about the Fastnet race and everything else in British and in European offshore racing. But he's also going to update us on COVID, which has taken an apparent turn for the worse in many parts of the world. Delta variant, the Lambda variant. Do masks really work or not? What is his latest advice besides get out, go sailing, stay safe, and have fun, which we will be doing next Tuesday with Hair Doctor Mr. Andrew McIrvin. Julia, you want to say?
Be sure, don't fail to like, follow, and share.
Exactly. Don't fail. I like that. We are going to replace the President Biden with you because you're a lot tougher than he is.
I am.
And if you're so inclined, leave comments, even in replay. We appreciate your comments very much. We do get hundreds of them. And please become a patron, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Several of you have done so in the past week or so, and it keeps us afloat. Julia, anything else?
No. I'll be glad when this summer is over and we transition into something.
And those Royal Canadian guys.
Oh, yes.
Terrific. I want to thank Allan, Megarry,
absolutely.
and Jamie Keating.
Both of them.
Yeah, terrific stuff. Okay, thanks, everybody. Hope to see you on next Tuesday. In the meantime, have a great and safe weekend where you are. And always, as always, sail safe, sail fast. Sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao. Ciao for now.